Sorry, I just got to take some cough bottle here because I'm not 100% at myself. Anyway, she started sending me emails and what, telling me she fancied me. And after a while, I stopped opening her emails. And because you're everything that she's not. You know what I mean? You're attractive. You're intelligent. You're accepted. People like you. You're getting on with your channel and just doing your thing. Now, I can tell you right now that jealousy will be hanging out of her. And if she sees that we have accepted you on our channel, that's going to make her 100 times worse, because that she loved being on our channel, but she blew it.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I hope you have a lovely Valentine's this week. And we all know that Valentine's is not just about romantic love. It's about family. It's about loving, parents, children, brothers, sisters, cousins. It's about love in general, not just romantic love. I hope everyone has a lovely Valentine's Day. And this is my Valentine's episode, but I'm going to be talking about a range of things. And one of the things I'm going to be discussing is mental health. Because when it comes to BAM, there was a lot of mental health issues there. It's funny, a lot of people like to dictate the narrative on BAM, and a lot of people like to tell other people not to talk about BAM. I've never told anyone that they can't talk about BAM, but a lot of people, especially my detractors, like to tell me not to talk about her, but yet they're talking about her and making community posts about her and putting voice messages up that she talked about, revealing things that she talked about. So it's okay for them to talk about her, but it's not okay for me to talk about her, apparently. The hypocrisy is just astounding to me. People say, don't use her, don't talk about her. Well, I'm not using her. She used other people, and I'll get to that soon. People say, don't talk about her, and yet they're talking about her. People say that BAM had a right to talk about whatever she wanted to in her channel, yet they're not giving other people that same advantage or privilege or space or freedom. People say don't talk about BAM, yet they're talking about her themselves. The hypocrisy is amazing to me. One of the things that I will say is that BAM told me, one of the many things that she told me, I have a problem. She told me that Iva from Tasmania had a thing for her, and that was something new to me because I wasn't around at the time that this was apparently going on. But she told me that Iva fancied her, and that Iva was making advances towards her. And I'm talking about Iva. You know which Iva I'm talking about, the Tasmanian one. When she initially told me this, that Iva was attracted to her, I believed it. And I believed it partly because, and by the way, I don't have any problem with Iva. As far as I'm concerned, Iva is a much nicer person than Bam was. But when she told me this, I actually believed it because of the kind of videos that Iva used to make of me, which I actually found to be very funny. And I actually I'm sad that she took those videos down because I thought her videos on me were very funny. Iva made out that I was kind of like an airy-headed bimbo with just a body. She would talk about my body, she would talk about my figure, and as if that was all there is to me. And she would make me out to be an airy-headed bimbo, but I actually found some of her videos on me very, very, very funny. So because of that, and because Iva talked about my figure and my curves and what so much in videos, she featured that a lot in videos. I believed BAM, and Iva actually did make a video later on during that time saying that she was attracted to women. So I believed BAM, but I don't know how truthful it is. She would say that Iva would send her emails, and it came to a point where BAM claimed she was not opening any of Iva's emails anymore. And she did tell me that she'd contacted Iva's local MP in Tasmania, as well as the local authorities over Iva. I don't know where Bam was going with that. I don't know why she thinks contacting people in other countries. I don't know where she thinks that. I don't know why she ever thought that was going to solve anything. I think it was just her arrogance, why she did things like that. Tinksey's accused of doing the same thing, and I know that's a load of rubbish. Tinksey's not calling anyone in foreign countries. Neither does she have files on people. It's a load of rubbish, a lot of nonsense. But Bam was the one that used to do those things, That's what she used to do. She would call people. I mean, she was a she must have had nothing better to do with her time. Looking back on it in reflection, I understand probably why she did that now, because she really had nothing to do with her time. She had no life. But yeah, Bam told me that Iva was very, very attracted to her, and she claimed that Iva told Bam that she fancied her, and things like that. But I don't know how much of what Bam said, based on a lot of things, is true. I don't know how much of that is actually true, because I later come to find that she was Bam was a fantasist, and that's the truth. She was a fantasist. This podcast is going to go in a very slightly different direction than I was taking it. I was going to talk about another creator who was talking about her mental health issues over the last 4 months, but I'm taking this in a slightly different direction. It's a cold, rainy day in London, and cars are driving by. Anyway, I'm just going to talk about this for one moment. I'm including this in this podcast. Apparently, Jack the R, the white-haired East End guy of the Unsolved, apparently he's been identified as Aaron Kosminski after DNA analysis. Now, I don't take this as complete and utter 100% fact, because it happened so many decades ago, and this person is never going to be tried, okay, because they're no longer here. So I don't take this as 100%, but it's a lot more credible than all the other revelations in the past, and it kind of seems to fit. I mean, this guy lived in the area. He lived in the East End of London. He was living in the area at the time that all this happened, and he was a barber. So, barber, cutting. And he was actually a Polish immigrant, and I always thought it was an English person, and of course England, and particularly London, is full of immigrants, so it kind of makes sense. And I actually happen to think that he's a very attractive man, based on this photograph, and I can see how he could have attracted a lot of people, and particularly women. He has a very attractive face. I can see him being charming and charismatic. Very, very handsome man. I've always wanted to know who the Zodiac is, and I've always wanted to know who Jack VR was, and I would always get frustrated every time I watched a documentary, read a book, and this case was never ever, we never found who it was. So at least one step closer. Do I think this is completely set in stone and definitive? No. But at least we've got something to chew on now. After I stopped participating in Bam's channel, you could sense that something was off about her. At least I could, and me and my friend EK could sense that she was just going too far. Once I stopped participating, and there was numerous reasons, because I didn't like how she was talking to people. She was becoming more short-tempered. There were lots and lots of reasons. It wasn't just one thing. But once I stopped participating in her channel, I noticed a pattern developing with her. And obviously, in hindsight now, I can see things more clearly. What she would do is, if she thought she could get a follower out of you, and I said in a previous podcast that she wasn't looking for friends, she was looking for followers and people she could use and people she could manipulate and people she could influence. So once she thought she could get a follower out of you, she would initiate you into the group. The group would be nice to you, as Bam, you know, she would require her followers to be nice to people who she was initiating into the group. Then you would go through a very short period of being love-bombed and groomed by Bam. And she was very nice in the initial stages, as you can hear in the beginning of this podcast. She was very, very nice. But if you did one little thing that she didn't like, or she thought that you might have a better life than her, or if she simply wasn't in a good mood that day and she saw you posting, I don't know, pictures of yourself having a good time or eating nice food, she could turn on you on a dime. And I think there's various reasons why she didn't like me. I don't think she liked anyone, but I think there's various reasons why, you know, she didn't like me. I think she thought that I was going to be easily influenced by her, like she thought her followers were. And you know, then there was the constant talk about Hugh Hefner seeing her in a bikini and being offered 2 contracts by Hugh Hefner. This is a woman approaching her mid-50s saying things like this that we all know are not true, just to feed her own ego. And I think she actually really thought people believed her phantom fantasist crazy stories about herself. The Emma Kenny stuff, you know, Bam had 3,000 subscribers at the end of her time on YouTube, and she was accusing Emma Kenny, who had over 200,000 subscribers, of taking her work. I mean, how delusional do you have to be saying stuff like that? And then there was the whole paywall issue with Natasha, and you know, she appeared to be outraged at first, didn't she, about the paywall thing with Natasha and the other girl. But then as soon as she saw that she could get a follower out of Natasha, because Natasha was sticking up for Bam, was defending Bam. As soon as she saw she could get a follower out of Natasha, her tune completely changed. Her constant talking about her education, day in, day out, week in, week out. I didn't care about her education. You know, that's never a reason why I'd be friends with somebody. And then the endless ranting at one person or other, day in, day out, week in, week out. It's just not normal behavior, particularly for a grandmother and a woman of that age. There were so many signs that there was something not right about her, and I actually think that she was going downhill in the mental capacity 2 years before I actually got into contact with her. I think there were signs. I think the first sign was when she did that rant with Amber, that there was something not quite right with her. I wasn't around then. Like I said, I was a latecomer, went into the BAM sphere. I came to her channel very late, and I was friends with her and very close with her for a very, very short period of time. Everybody else apart from me and EK had been with her for at least a year. So, or almost everybody else had been with her for a much longer time. So, and you know, once she turned on you, it was like she just became obsessed with you and obsessed with her disdain for you. And with the Ruseks, she was just completely and utterly obsessed with them and her disdain for them. And that went right down to how she felt about Shanann and how she used Shanann and talked about Shanann constantly to irritate them. You know, her channel became about who she didn't like and bonding with others over people that she didn't like. And like I said, sitting there ranting and raving week in, week out, that's just not normal behavior. If my mum was doing that, or somebody that in my family, like my aunt or uncle, was doing something like that, I would be thinking that there's something very, very wrong. So there were a lot of signs that she wasn't mentally sound. And I'm sad that those signs were missed. She really did need help. And a lot of her bragging about herself and how she apparently looked in a bikini was ego boosting. You know, she needed her ego fed constantly. I think she had at least one personality disorder, and at the very minimum one personality disorder, and the very minimum one mental health issue that was ongoing. She did tell me that during the winter months that she did suffer quite, from depression and stuff like that. So I think, when the months were going down for her, when the clock was ticking, it was during the autumn and winter months when she was really, really going at people. And she was just totally unpleasant to deal with at that time. And that's part of the reason why I just didn't want to participate in her channel anymore. I also missed some of her live streams. It was only later that I found out that how much she disliked EK, and that she'd done a stream about EK, and me. I missed those streams. I did check into her streams every now and then after I stopped participating, but I didn't want to participate anymore. But my point about, how she initiated people into her group and into her sphere and into her channel and into her world is that, if she decided that she didn't like you anymore, then there was the discard, the narcissistic discard, the way not all narcissists discard people. But I think she kept some people around even when she didn't like them anymore, because she thought she might be able to still use them after deciding that she didn't like them anymore. And there was a few situations where, there were people coming up in her live streams or live streaming with her that Bam didn't like, but they didn't know that Bam didn't like them. They thought they were liked by her. And she was a very good actress, and she was very charming, and she was very charismatic. So I'd seen that she'd done the same thing with Natasha Cooper. Natasha Cooper, once she decided she liked Natasha, she initiated her into the group the same way she did me. She put her up on panel. She love bammed her. All of that stuff. I saw all of it all repeating itself. I wonder how long it would have taken before Bam turned on Natasha as well. Particularly once she saw how much Natasha Cooper loved money, which is another thing that Bam didn't like. She had pure disdain for people who she thought were after money. Yet she had so many PayPal links on her channel. She would get her followers to post PayPal links on her channel. And I can prove this. I can prove everything I've said about Bam, and views expressed in this podcast are my views and my views alone. You don't have to agree with anything that I'm saying. You can agree with some of it. You might not agree with all of it. These are just my opinions, which I'm allowed to express, whether it's on my channel or in a house or in a pub or whatever. These are my opinions, and I'm entitled to my opinions as other people are entitled to theirs. And also, if you notice, neither me or EK have any beef with Helen or Tinksy or Amber. We haven't continued that. We're not interested. So you see who the real followers are. We're not interested in beefing with Helen. I'm not in any group. I'm not best friends with Tinksy or anything like that. But I'm not interested in beefing with Tinksy. I'm not interested in beefing with Helen. I want to have a peaceful time on YouTube. I'm not interested in going down the route that Bam went down, because it didn't do her any good in the end. Anyway, before I go, I just want to have a little chat about Valentine's meals ideas. When I cook something, I take several pictures, lots of pictures, and then I edit the photographs and I keep the originals. So if I ever need to prove that they're mine, I can. I keep the original prints. And I used to send my photos off to places, to food channel sites and stuff like that, for various reasons, and I'll talk about that another time. But I want to talk about Valentine's meal ideas in this podcast. I really am not, for some reason, I'm really not in the mood to eat meat right now. The only meat that I want to eat right now is lamb, if I see it. I might buy it. But I'm really more interested in eating fish and poultry at the moment. I had a lot of meat over the holidays, and I'll always eat meat. I'll always love steak. I'll always love lamb chops. But at the moment, I just prefer to eat fish or poultry, and particularly fish. I had the beautiful fish soup on the weekend, a big pot of fish soup which had potatoes, sea bass, tuna, yellowfin tuna, haddock, cod, had other fish as well. It was just a beautiful fish soup. And then on another day in the weekend, I had lemon sole, which is one of my absolutely favourite fishes, along with Dover sole, with potatoes and some sautéed broccoli. And that's kind of how I want to eat for the rest of the winter, eating fish. But, I will never turn down a good steak. And these are my Valentine's Day ideas. Not that any of you really need any. I'm sure you've got your own ideas. I didn't cook the chicken stuffed with peppers and cheese on the bottom left. Somebody in my family cooked that and I photographed it. But I cooked everything else. These are things that I've cooked over the years. Steak with peppercorn sauce, duck confit with a nice cherry sauce, sheet pan salmon, a creme caramel flan, lamb chops. These are all great ideas for a Valentine's Day dinner, a Valentine's Day meal, but probably quick, easy dishes to cook are probably the best option. But I do love cooking, but I haven't really felt like doing a lot of cooking over this winter. I've done cooking, and I have to cook because I don't like ordering out and I don't like eating out anymore. Eating out is just too much money. Food prices are way high, so I prefer to buy my own food and cook my own food. It's much cheaper that way and much more delicious, in my opinion, generally speaking anyway. I hope you have a nice Valentine's Day, whoever you're spending it with. I feel like taking a tiny break. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be on YouTube. I'm on YouTube all the time. I watch cooking channels, I watch lifestyle channels, I do a lot of other things on YouTube apart from my channel. But I feel like taking a mini break. I might post a few shorts and that's it, for a few days before returning and discussing something that I can't discuss, but I'll get into that another time. I hope you have a happy Valentine's Day, and I hope you're enjoying the year so far.